If it have students coming from school, there's quite a lot of issues to think about when they're coming to college. And the main thing is to start early, as you should. Some of the roles that are available in college are not available in school, and so students really do need the chance to try them out. For example, they might have had a support worker at school who is their teacher, and their teacher of deaf children has done all the roles rolled into one. And when they get to college, they find out one person is a note taker, another person is interpreting, and another person is providing additional support, or perhaps there's a fourth person you go to if you're not happy. So that's quite hard for students to understand, and they need to have a chance to try out those different roles and to get to know the people where they are. It's quite a shock for them that the whole thing is set up differently. And of course, if they go on to higher education, those different roles will continue. So it is really worth it. Lots of school students are very excited when they see things like electronic note-taking, because it really means that their time at college is much easier than it had been at school. So that's one thing, I think, at transition. And the other thing is to have a good time, somebody in the college, maybe the support team, need to have a decent amount of time with the student individually to talk about their experiences at school and the course that they're going on. So if the course has a work placement, that needs to be discussed in quite a lot of detail, and the student might not have had a lot of experience of work placement before. So talking them through, or possibly going to have a look at the work placement, all the different aspects of the course need to be discussed, like the practicals, and then the support staff need to make sure that they've talked to all the teaching teams about the implications of having a deaf student on their course. Now that does take time. Also, the information you get from school about a student is often not complete, and schools can get better at this if you ask them what to do, but very important information is sometimes not passed on, particularly about things which are difficult to talk about. You know, a student who's had a very difficult early time earlier in their life, schools sometimes don't think that's relevant, but of course it often is relevant when it comes up to challenging times at college. So having a good relationship with between the support team and the school service makes that transition much easier to try and get at issues which have affected the pupil before when they've been at school. At transition, quite a lot of deaf students will consider different types of support that they hadn't previously liked. For example, they suddenly sometimes see what's the value of an FM system, that is a radio aid, where the teacher wears the mic and the student wears a little tiny receiver which goes on the hearing aid. And some students suddenly realise they've got better, the design of them has improved since they were 11, and they feel perhaps a bit different about coming to college, and they're prepared to give it a go. And that's a really good opportunity. And if you're a support tutor, one thing to do at that time is to show the advantage of using an FM system. It's a massive listening advantage. It helps with lip reading. So it's a good opportunity to try and encourage them to think like that. It will make their time at college better if they can do it. It's very important in the college at transition to set up the person to go to if you're not happy about something, because the support arrangements for deaf students are sometimes quite complicated, and the student might be difficult to understand. Some students use sign, some students use speech, not very clearly. It's very important that the student has someone to go to who's independent and not their support worker. So if they're unhappy with the quality of the support that they're getting in class, they need to have someone to go to who they can complain about confidentially. It's no good having the support worker turning up to interpret in these situations. So that means someone in the college should have fluent signing skills. And that is a reasonable adjustment under the Equality Act 2010. Unfortunately, it doesn't often happen. You know, there's many colleges where deaf students who sign can't really go anywhere to discuss what they're feeling, and this is why some students drop out. So it's really important to establish that relationship, and I would say have a regular review of how the support's going at college, what they think about particular support workers and how they work, and are they happy with the method? You know, are the notes arriving on the same day, for example? Are they legible? Would they prefer electronic notes? Are the communication support workers using the same sort of signing? Are they using the same subject terminology? Are they sitting in the same place? Are they behaving in the same way in the classroom? These sorts of things need to be fed back to the support team, and it's not the job of the support worker to sort them out, really. They're management issues. So that will help with transition if those things are set up. Now, some students are also going to want extra language support. And the reason they need that is because many deaf students are diagnosed deaf quite late. The students who are coming through college now have usually been diagnosed after the age of 1 or 2, and that's really late. It means that their language development as a young child was probably compromised. And that means that their literacy skills are likely not to be as good, and their vocabulary in English might be very weak. However, their ability is in the normal range. So academically, they should be able to cope with the course and the pace of the course, the content, but they might find the terminology really challenging. The idea of structuring written assignments could be very difficult. So the idea of a language tutor is to give support in those areas, not to help them do the assignments, but to show them what is how assignments are structured, how to use texts which are given out in class, how to use notes, and how to produce written assignments. Now, many colleges don't have that role, the language tutor, and so it's a really good role to get established. It could be a part-time tutor who's got fluent signing skills, who can work with students who use speech and students who use sign. It could be an ESOL teacher who's interested in language. And many of these deaf students who need this support are not sign language users. It's not an issue that goes with sign language, it's an issue which goes with being deaf and having a late start with learning a first language. So that's a really important facility to establish in a college to support students when they come in.